Welcome to NewsNale episode 11. Today we're going to be talking about layoffs that we're seeing in the marketplace, a NewsRivit, which is my version of a rant on a current situation, and we're going to end with good news. Top Gun 2, Top Gun Maverick is coming out this weekend, and boy, am I excited. So let's move on. This is the third week we've seen of layoffs or freezes from big high growth companies. We're seeing layoffs from four of the big ones: Carvana, Robinhood, Netflix, and PixArt. Remember, PixArt was the better, faster, smaller Adobe. And we're seeing hiring freezes from the likes of Meta and Twitter. Now, why is this happening now, and what's going to happen in the future? First of all, why is this happening? What do these big high growth, high information tech companies all have in common? Well, they were perceived to be big market cap, big growth companies that had a lot of investors' monies in it, still do have a lot of investor monies that were banking on the future. Their fundamentals, today they're not profitable, but what they're investing in, it's on the promise of the future. And it's putting money into the business, hoping that it'll hit this big future place where it's making lots of money. And so what happens when money is cheap, when interest rates are low and investors are excited, these companies are given a lot of money to invest in their businesses because the future is so bright. What's the easiest way to spend money? Hiring people. What's the stupidest way to spend money? Hiring people. If you need 10 people, hire 20, maybe 10 will work out. It's not my money. Remember, I've always said before, it's a lot more fun, a lot easier to spend someone else's money when you're going out. When you're going out in town with dad's credit card, boy, you don't look at prices then. And when you're spending other people's money, it's a lot easier to spend a lot of it. So they hired a lot of people, and the growth and the profitability didn't happen. So now we're hitting a time where interest rates are getting higher. Money's not as easy to come by. Investors are saying, we want to see some payback for this money. So how do you cut costs? Well, what goes up must come down. If it's easy to spend money on hiring, it's easy to save it by laying people off. So that's what they did. They cut some people. Who are these layoffs happening to? They're happening to this middle layer of workers that actually I never knew what they were doing in the first place. There were so many of them in these kind of information tech companies. They're the ones that insisted on staying home, sipping their lattes, having their paychecks and their snacks too. Scott Galloway dubs them the Patagonia vest workers, walking around maybe in, their high-end shoes and doing their things. Well, now, instead of working at home, they're unemployed at home or at Starbucks getting their resumes together. And who knows what they have to show for it. They worked at a company that never turned a profit, that they were cut when costs needed to be found. What does this mean? Well, Y Combinator, the investor in a lot of big startups like Airbnb, Coinbase, and Reddit, has said it's going to get a lot worse before it gets better. It's going to be happening for about 6 to 12, 18, probably 24 months. These layoffs are going to continue. This type of economy is going to continue because this downturn that's hitting the big guys, and it's going to trickle down and hit even smaller startups too. What does this mean? What do you do for you or for your business? First of all, it's time to face the truth. It's time to face your truth about your business. We talked about this a few weeks ago. The Uber CEO actually came out and said, we actually have to start making money. Can you imagine if you came home to your roommates or to your spouse or to your own self and said, you know what, I've got to start spending less than I make. I actually have to stop spending more than I actually make. That's what Uber has basically said. That's what these companies are now saying. We actually have to start turning a profit now, not hoping on this thing in the future that may or may not ever happen. It's time to stop living on a prayer, as John Bon Jovi said. And so Y Combinator is urging these companies, cut your costs, extend your runway, within the next 30 days. Really evaluate yourself. Are you default dead or default alive? And what does that mean? It means if your expenses remain constant and your revenue growth is what it's been over the past several months and will continue to stay there, then you're default alive. But if your expenses remain constant and there is no revenue or there's no revenue growth, you are default dead. Are you, or do you make it to profitability with the money you have left? If you're default alive, you preserve the capital, the cash that you have, you cut costs, you extend that runway, and you live to see another day, and your growth slows a little bit. If you're default dead, you're gonna have a tough time, because it's a tough time to raise money right now if your fundamentals aren't good. If you've not proven that your business can make money, that it can be profitable, very few people are going to give you money on that hope that you will get there. And so if you're default dead, you've got to really cut your costs. This is the time to pivot, as they say. Look at your business model, because if it isn't working now, it's not going to be working 30 days from now. It's not going to be working in the future. You got to find a way to make it work. What does it mean for you personally? For individuals, it means make sure you are spending less than you're making, and that you're saving some money, that you have at least 2 to 3 months in the bank should that paycheck go away. And if you don't, start saving now. If you are overspending and you don't have any savings, now's the time to really cut the costs. All right, stop going to Starbucks. Maybe you get that case of ramen at Costco and you're not going out to dinner as much. And you're finding ways to cut those costs. If you're interviewing for a job, make sure the company you're looking at, that the fundamentals are sound. Do they make money? And if not, are they in control of how and when they do make money? Or are they hoping the market forces churn out in such a way that it'll work? How much responsibility for your job and for success in your job falls on you? How much of it falls on people around you, and how much does it fall on the economy in general? The more it falls on you and people close to you, the better off you're going to be. That's why I've always liked sales. Sales is betting on yourself. You know, whether you make the sale or not, you're 100% responsible for making it or not. So those are the things you want to think about going forward to get through this. Just know we go through this as a country, as an economy, every 7 to 10 years. We're going to come through it. We're going to come through it healthier and better than before. These unicorn companies that, again, were kind of blowing smoke up everyone's ass. The time has come. The reckoning has come. It's time to actually, do you have a real business or you don't? This is where real smart business people with really good ideas, this is where they thrive. It's a great time to start a business if it's one where the fundamentals are good. If it's a solution to a problem that exists and people are willing to part with cash to make it go away. So next, I have a NewsRivit. It's a rant. And it's a rant about the horrible atrocities that happened in Texas this past week and seem to be happening way too often in this country. Let me start by saying that I've been a gun owner and a gun user since I can remember. I think when I was 8 years old, when I was given my own .410 shotgun, walked the logging roads in northern Minnesota, hunting partridge, getting up at 5 in the morning, getting in duck blinds, hunting for duck, cleaning those duck, eating those duck, cleaning the guns. We had a great respect for firearms. In fact, our school held gun safety class. I took it in 6th grade. We had a huge respect for guns and the damage they could do and how you acted around a gun and around people with a gun. Frankly, it's why I was horrible at paintball. My kids used to pace the hell out of me in paintball because I was taught as a kid, you never point anything at anybody. So I couldn't do it. So I just stood there and I froze and I got pelted. So Annie, that brings us to where we are now. When these events happen, everybody wants gun control this, gun control that. I wish that was a solution that could work just like that. And I just don't think it will, because I think crazy people that want to do crazy things can find crazy, easy ways to get them. I think gun control is a combination of several things. One is basic gating. We have gating now. If I'm 12 years old, I can't get in a car and legally drive it. I can't legally buy a drink. In this state, I have to get a permit to light a fire in my backyard. You have to get a permit to drive. We have to have basic gating norms for gun ownership. I don't think it is outrageous to ask somebody to wait a few days to get a gun. I can't think of any situation where I need a gun right now. If you're going to the shooting range, well, plan ahead. We know when hunting season happens, so plan ahead. So I think we can do that and do some background checks. Now, having said that, people are still going to slip through. And I think what's happened is, I don't know if we call it social norms, but I think we have so many visuals of people being killed that the stigma and the tabooness around it has been reduced. I know I've said this before, and I know there's not a lot of data to support this, but I think when you have gaming systems where you can play and they look so real and you can go out and shoot and kill hundreds of people in an hour, I think that just does something mentally to lower the badness of actually going out and doing it. And all the violence we see in our entertainment and all the crazy shit we see on social media, I think it just lessens the barrier to actually going and doing it. And so I don't know how we do anything about that or how we restrict it. Maybe there's basic gating on certain games that, you know, you just can't use them if you're not a certain age. And then finally, we have a spike in mental health issues, or at least awareness of them, from middle school up through high school. And not enough's being done about it. The good news is we've made great strides in enhancing and increasing awareness of mental health, that mental health is an illness that's just as harmful as any other physical illness. I see this every year when I work with veterans at the nonprofit Warriors in Quiet Waters. These men and women come through, and whether they've lost an arm or they're suffering from PTSD, it's the same impact that they have to work through. And thank goodness we have organizations now that are focused on this. We have Positively Outward, which is started by an MSU student here, focused on supporting and getting mental health support to high school students. There's the JED Foundation, which provides health services and suicide prevention for teens. But we're seeing suicide levels in teens that are the highest they've ever been. When I was a kid, the deaths of teens were because of drunk driving. Now, thanks to Uber, that doesn't happen, but now we're seeing deaths due to suicide. And these are horrible things. And these are things that have to be addressed. And there's no one, I hate to say it, silver bullet that solves all this. It's gonna be a mix of all these being focused on, but something has to happen. We just can't not do anything. So that's it on that. On to some really exciting news. Tomorrow night, Friday, is the premiere of Top Gun Maverick. Now, the original Top Gun came out over 40 years ago. I watched it last weekend, and you know what? For a 40-year-old movie, it holds up. And I recommend anybody 50 and up, go watch it. You'll realize what all these lines you've been saying all these years, where they came from. I pretty much knew the entire script. And kids, watch it with your parents. Now you'll know where all these lines Dad's been saying has been coming from. But this reboot, or this second version, I've heard it's very good. I've heard it's called the Dad's movie. But I'm very excited for it. There's some great scenes in there. We got Tom Cruise, a true movie star, doing a great movie. But he goes into a bar with his sidekick, Goose. And he says, Goose, it's this thing they got going on. He goes, I think she's lost that love and feeling. And Goose goes, oh no, no, I don't think so. He goes, yeah, I think. And he picks up a microphone, turns, and he starts. You never close your eyes anymore when I kiss your lips. And there's no tenderness like before in your fingertips. You're trying hard not to show it, baby. But baby, baby, I know it. You've lost that love and feeling. Whoa, that love and feeling. You've lost that love and feeling. Now it's gone, gone, gone. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Bo-dum, 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 boom, boom. Baby, baby, I get down on my knees for you. And then he hands it off and sits down next to the Kelly McGillis, and it goes on and on. But anyway, I end with that. Go have some fun this Memorial Day weekend. If you can, I think it'd be a good movie to watch. I'm going tomorrow night with my gal. And that's it until our next NewsNale. Thank you. NewsNale is a news ed production that you can follow NewsNales on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is a Nails Ed media education media production. Sky Montana and Abigail Soroka are producers. Music is by Slade Hudson. Fact checking, story sourcing by Rancher Pete, who you can follow on Instagram at Rancher Pete, M as in Mary T, Rancher Pete MT. And we will see you next time around. And have a great